Michael Jordan's #1 success secret. In this video, I'm going to share with you the #1 secret of one of the greatest athletes of all time. But more of that later on. First off, I want to ask you the question. Are you the sort of person who struggles to keep your attention? Are you the sort of person who gets distracted easily? Because if you are, this video is for you, because this is something that Michael Jordan learned how to do, to control his attention. So who is Michael Jordan? Well, apart from me being the biggest fan of Michael Jordan that has probably ever lived, I've pretty much got every shirt that he's ever worn. I've got signed photos of him. I've even got a massive poster of him in our bathroom. He has won the NBA championship 6 times. He's been awarded 5 times the most valuable player in the league. He's a very successful businessman with his own brand of Air Jordan, and he is one of the most marketed sports figures in history. So what is his #1 success secret? Well, it might surprise you, but it really is the art and the practice of mindfulness. Now, when you think of mindfulness, what do you think about? Well, mindfulness really is the ability of human beings to observe their mind and to control their thoughts. Now, many athletes come across mindfulness, many people come across it, but why do people start doing it? Well, in most cases, people start to do it because they're struggling in their life. They are struggling to deal with their thoughts. Their thoughts are leading to emotions that are resulting in feelings that are challenging for people to deal with. Now, Michael Jordan came across mindfulness through his coach, had an incredible coach called Phil Jackson, one of the greatest sports coaches of all time. But from what I understand, Michael was a little bit resistant to that. Michael Jordan, it was all about Michael. He was a great player. He became a great player through hard work and dedication. Some of the stories about Michael are incredible. That when he was a junior at high school, he didn't actually even get picked. And there is this story that it hurt him so much that he went home and he was crying, and his mum said to him, use that pain to prove everybody that they were wrong about you. And Michael set about to never feel that pain again. And that's one of the reasons that he became very, very successful. But like most people in life, we come across difficulties, challenging times. And Michael had a very difficult time when his father was murdered. He'd already won the NBA championship 3 times, but with the death of his father, he decided to retire from the game of basketball. And he was finding it very difficult to deal with the death of his father. And he knew of mindfulness, and this is where he decided to really dip his toe in. And he came across a mindfulness coach that was recommended to him by Phil Jackson. Michael started to practice this ability to observe your thoughts. Now, let me ask you, how many thoughts do you think we have in a typical day? Well, it's estimated that we might have 50, 60, 70,000 thoughts in one day. And what happens with most people is the thoughts they have today are very similar to the thoughts they had yesterday. And what most people want to do is they want to create a different world. They want a new personal reality, but they're trying to create that with the same personality, the same way of thinking. Now, what was happening with Michael was through something that happened in his life which was very difficult. He was obviously experiencing some real difficult emotions, some really uncomfortable feelings. And he really embraced mindfulness. Take a moment to listen to what Michael Jordan said about the practice of mindfulness.
I think Phil had a lot to do with that, with his Zen practice, his whole emotional approach to a game of basketball. I've experienced a lot of different coaches, but he gave me the understanding about life in a whole different frame, how you view yourself to deal with the realities of life.
So like many things, Michael became very, very good at the practice of mindfulness. And that really is the key word, the practice. Michael Jordan's #1 success secret wasn't mindfulness, it was the practice of mindfulness. His ability to observe what it is that he was doing, his ability to observe your thoughts. Because if you don't observe your thoughts can just take over. And then it's very easy for people to keep feeling what they felt before. He became so good at this, like he became very good at the different aspects of basketball. In fact, he was a very good attacking player, but he also became the best defensive player in the NBA. And he used mindfulness not just as a way to help him deal with life, but when he came out of retirement and went back in to the game of basketball, this is where he used that practice to take his game to a whole new level. Now, what's really interesting is when he came back into the game of basketball that first season, they didn't win. And he really had to take a good, hard look at himself to reinvent himself once again. And this is where Phil Jackson, his coach, and the team, and Michael all really embraced mindfulness like never before. Take a moment to listen to what Phil Jackson said about mindfulness.
This is something that we talked about a lot as a basketball team, is about how to be in the moment, being able to visualize what might happen in those times. Michael so embraced this, and I think that was the beauty of his game, is that he had all these abilities to adjust, not force his own predetermined idea, but allow those things to come together for his game.
So just like anything, when you practice it, you can become very, very good at it. And Michael then started to use mindfulness in his sport. So what he would do, as Phil Jackson just explained, is start to see the outcomes that he was looking for. It's really important that I share with you two really important aspects of how the mind works. Look, first off, the mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience and an experience that we actually make up. So if I was to say to you, think of a holiday that you've been on in your life, your brain can remember that. It can go back and you could see some of the things that you saw, you could hear some of the things you heard, and you could feel some of the things that you felt. But I could also say to you, imagine going on a holiday that you've never been on before and start to see some of the things that you would like to see and hear and feel. Your brain doesn't actually know the difference. And this is what Michael did. In his mind, he rehearsed the results he was looking for. He would imagine the really difficult situations where in the last second of a game, he would be given the ball and he had to shoot, to score, to win the game. He started to use his mind in really powerful ways. And that's the second thing that people really need to understand, is the nature of the mind. This is really what mindfulness is about. Because if you don't watch your mind, it will go to a place that it's gone before. It might go to fear and doubt and worry and anxiety. The mind plays tricks on us. We've spoken about this in many of our YouTube videos. And in fact, when you've finished watching this video, please watch the video with 7 times snooker world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan, as he talks about the habits that we need to install for us to be successful. Because for me, life is a competitive event. Life is sport. And every single day we are going out and we are competing to be the very best that we can be. And with our mind, if we're not careful, it can play tricks on us. Have you ever tried to go to sleep at night and your mind has been working overtime? Have you ever thought that someone was behind you and there was nobody there? Michael, through the practice of mindfulness, was able to direct his mind into a future that hadn't happened yet, so that he was able to see the results that he was looking for. Listen to what he says right here about how good he became at that.
I tend to be calm. Things tend to slow down. As I go into situations that people don't know the outcome, I've already experienced them in my mind, just playing tricks with myself. So it didn't seem new to me, and I wasn't afraid to fail with it. Once I began to understand that, I became a master of the game of basketball.
So what's really evident is Michael Jordan wasn't just a very talented basketball player. He really worked to his game, not just physically, but also mentally. And through the practice of mindfulness, he became the greatest, maybe of all time. Do you want to become greater? Do you want to outperform anything that you've done before? And how might mindfulness help you? So right now, watch the video with 7-time snooker world champion and start to think to yourself, how could you be your very best and outperform anything you've done before?